Hey everybody, I'm Asia Branch. I am your host of Speak On It. And this episode, we are going to talk about a lot of things. I'm going to start with the Hunter Biden interview that was released today. You know, a brief of it, I guess. I don't know if they're going to show more of it later on tonight after the debate. But just to get it out there, ABC released it today. So I have a lot to say about that specific interview. The one thing that I want to talk about is how whoever the journalist is, I don't know her name, and to be frank, I don't care to know her name. Most of the people on ABC are probably as fake as, CNN. I try to give people the benefit of the doubt, and I tried to give this journalist the benefit of the doubt, but she wasn't hitting back hard with questions. I mean, there's just one in particular part where she asks him, why did you resign from the board? Oh, it was a 5-year contract. That's what Hunter Biden says. The journalist responds, so why did you choose not to, renew the contract? He goes, it's pretty obvious. Now, I'm not going to go too much in depth about that. I'm just going to show you guys so that way you can see for yourselves what this man was actually saying. I mean, to be frank, you guys, it was insane. I'm going to pull it for you. Hold on. Okay, you guys, so this is it.
Leave the board in April.
It's a 5-year term.
And you chose not to.
I chose not to. Yeah.
Why?
I think it's pretty obvious why.
This is your opportunity to say why.
Well, because this is what becomes a distraction, because I have to sit here and answer these questions. And so that's why I've committed that I won't serve on any boards or I won't work directly for any foreign entities when my dad becomes president.
Do you think that should be a rule across the board for any administration?
No, look, that's the rule that I'm going to adhere to.
Do you regret being on the board to begin with?
No, I don't regret being on the board. Would I?
Okay. So. I played briefly for you guys what was said by Hunter Biden in that interview, right? Did you guys hear that crap? First of all, she asked why he didn't renew his contract. Did you hear an answer? Because I sure as hell didn't. I'm just going to play the audio one more time, just so we can hear. I'm going to play it loud, just so we can hear it. You guys might get my reaction to it. Right, here we go. Hold on. Here we go. Here it is. Again, we're just going to play the audio for you. Just listen.
Why did you leave the board in April?
It's a 5-year term.
And you chose not to.
Remember, she just asked, why did you leave the board? Why did you leave the firm? He says it was a 5-year term contract.
I chose not to. Yeah.
Why?
I think it's pretty obvious why.
Pretty obvious.
This is your opportunity to say why.
Well, because this is what becomes a distraction. Because I have to sit here.
Because the questions themselves become a distraction? That's why you left? You're telling me that you left $1 million or 6-figure salary because it becomes a distraction for when your father runs for the presidency? I'm sorry. Didn't you resign 3 years ago? Didn't you resign when President Obama was still in office? This is speculation, but if he resigned when Obama was in the White House, then you must have been, number one, assuming that Hillary Clinton was running for office, or you knew that she just lost and Trump was taking the White House. So why would you think that your father was running for office? Why? That this would be a distraction. How is it that you resigning from a firm, whether it's for a Ukrainian firm or a freaking 7-Eleven down the street from me, it does not matter. How does that relate to today? How does a choice you made from years ago relate to a distraction from your father's campaign? What does it have to do with anything? It is not a distraction. The only reason why you're sitting here in this interview is because your missteps, your actions, and daddy trying to protect you is why your father's in trouble and why he might not even win this damn election. I don't want him to win. I love Joe, but I don't want him to be the president of the United States of America. And personally, I would prefer if his son didn't go to prison simply because he's already lost one to cancer. But hey, you do the crime, then you need to do the time. Plain and simple. We're supposed to believe that all of a sudden that your son, he had an epiphany, he had a vision like Raven from That So Raven had, that he knew that 3 years down from now, after I resign from this firm, my father's going to run for the highest office in the land of America. Really? We're supposed to buy that crap. And another thing, right? Another thing about Hunter Biden, it's not so much just Hunter. It's how people are reacting to it, like other people, like who their opinions and stuff. So on The View, right, they talked a little bit about Hunter Biden's interview here that he did for ABC. And I'm going to pull that one up for you guys too. I'm sorry I'm looking away from the camera right now because obviously I am doing this from both a laptop and trying to cast the video from my phone. So you guys just bear with me. I'm trying to pull it up. But even them on The View. I have a lot of respect for Abby Huntsman. I have a little bit of respect for Meghan McCain. And that's because she concedes way too often for my liking. I really don't care that she kind of concedes from the battle when she shouldn't. You know, I guess she compromises a lot. Guess it makes it easier for her day. Whatever. But the rest of them, Sunny Hostin, Joy Behar, Whoopi Goldberg, Whoopi can be sensible sometimes, like when it was time to, you know, really condemn the actions of the Will and Grace actors for their blacklist. I applauded Whoopi because at least she remembered the time where there was a blacklist and people were killing themselves because they couldn't work. But I digress. The rest of them, when it comes to Hunter Biden, they want to keep shifting focus, right? Sunny kept trying to shift focus to Donald Trump as if this interview had anything to do with him. These questions are about Hunter Biden and his decisions from when he worked for a firm 3 years ago. 3 years ago. Okay? Keep that number in mind. 3 years ago, he resigned. 3 years ago, this was a problem under the Obama administration. 3 years ago. But apparently, according to Hunter, and according to this journalist, because she didn't hit back hard enough, but agreed with him that his decision to stay would have been a distraction for his father's campaign. The only impropriety here is that you were taking millions and millions of dollars when we know that a lot of the issues that we were getting as far as the Russia collusion hoax, the issues that we've been having as far as government corruption, a lot of it was coming from Ukraine. So we were going to look there anyway. He didn't go there looking to find an issue with Hunter Biden. It just so happened that a lot of the issues that were happening around the Ukraine surrounded a lot of the Democrats, and a lot of the Democrats were surrounded with who? Joe Biden. Not to mention, Joe did say a whole bunch of stuff on live camera, but I digress. I know I'm going all over the place because I'm so upset, but I really got to show you guys where they talk about the Hunter Biden interview. I'm just going to play it for you guys so you guys can see it. I can't even because it was insane. The woman at The View kept trying to shift focus. So we're just going to play the audio for you guys. Let me see if we can turn the camera around for you guys. Give me one moment because that's what we're going to do. Hold on for 1 second, okay? Just one moment. So before I hit play for you guys, I just want you to know, so they showed the clip, the same one that I showed you earlier on in this video, in my episode, where he said that the questions would be a distraction. So I'm just going to play a little bit of what each woman says. So it's going to be like 7 minutes long. This clip is 4 minutes. I'm going to play the other one for you after this, but you're going to see Sunny Hostin first try to shift focus to the Trumps, right? So let's start with that.
So, did he need to come out and do all of this? Was this the right time? I mean, I know he doesn't have anything to do with saying, put it on today. That's a GMA call. But, was this necessary given in our history in America of folks working in different places and such?
Well, I certainly think that there have been a lot of people that have said, wow, why hasn't Hunter come out? We haven't heard enough of a denial from the...
Remember, people, Sunny Hostin used to be a prosecutor, okay? Watch how she dodges the subject matter of which Whoopi brought up, Hunter Biden, and how she just switches focus to Donald Trump. She used to be a prosecutor. If this is what she did in trials, I don't know how she won any of her cases.
Biden's, and so perhaps they wanted to put it to rest. But I just think it's the height of hypocrisy.
Look at this,
Donald
right
Trump
here,
and his family to say anything about any other family's foreign interest anywhere in the world, because we know, even though he's right, even though he's president.
Look at her goading for an audience when even the audience knew that she was reaching with that. You were once upon a time a prosecutor in the state of New York. Why the hell are you shifting focus? Again, I say, if she was doing shit like this, excuse my language because I'm fired up, if she was using language like this in any case that she had, she never should have won any trial. Plain and simple. You were asked the question about Hunter Biden and him doing the interview now. Why do it now if he should have ever done it? And instead of answering the question, you shift focus to Donald Trump and his family. But that's completely irrelevant. That is not what was asked of you.
He has work. His sons are running his company, and they have work in 24 countries, including Turkey, in Istanbul, and we know what's going on in Turkey. And the other thing is Ivanka works in the White House, and she just got all these trademarks from China. Jared is meeting with people in the White House. He works for the White House, meeting with people for loans which he received. So don't tell me that his family...
You see? Exactly. All that crap. Now let's listen to Abby, right, who I thought would actually be on the conservative side of this argument, but apparently she thought Hunter was good here. So we're going to play that for you now.
But I was one of the first to say that it didn't look good when this came out. And I am someone that says, get out in front of it, put a face on it, let people know that you're a human being. And I think he did a good job of that.
How could he have done a good job, Abby? He didn't answer the serious question as to why didn't he renew his contract with them? Why not? And all he said was, it would be a distraction for when my father ran for office. What? Your father was the vice president of the United States at the time when you were being investigated. So now you're deciding not to renew? What?
He said, my dad doesn't have to defend me, but he has to love me. And my dad loves me more than anything. This story...
That's her going for feelings, not logic. This is what happens to conservatives when they go to The View, okay, people? They go to The View with common sense and logic in their minds, and then they're getting more in touch and in tune with their feelings about people as opposed to the facts of a person, and they get soft. That's what's happening to Abby. It happened to Megan, it happened to Jedediah, and now it's happening to Abby.
Leave me out of this. And speaking as someone like Megan who's been in politics as a kid, if you don't want to work in the White House or the administration, it's a tough position to be in.
Loads of crap. Now we're going to go to Megan, and hers is going to get cut off, so we're going to have to pull up her part 2. So let's just get started on there first.
With you. I don't think he did a great job.
You're right, Megan, he didn't.
I think when he said, look, I'm a private citizen, part of the problem is he also said I probably wouldn't have gotten this job if I weren't a Biden. And I think it was some criticism that's been held against other politicians' children is you sort of have to choose your lane. And I get that there are kids who don't, and I say kids, by the way, he's almost 50 years old, family members of politicians who say they don't want to be about it. But I know for my family, and again, it's just my experience, you're a unit. And I always say it's like being in a mafia family and you all roll together and you know what you're getting into.
Right? Okay, so that was the part 1. Now we got to go to part 2 because, that's what they did there for this time. But you guys, seriously, this is what happened in these interviews. This is what happened. Sorry about the ad.
So the oppo that's done, I don't understand why you would do this interview at this moment in time, and maybe this was just like a call by ABC, but this will be a conversation in the debates tonight. And if you don't think Julian Castro...
Okay, and now they start talking about the debates, which we are going to get to in my excitement about that, but that's not what this episode is about. This is specifically about what's happening with Hunter Biden, and we're going to talk more about that after the break. Give me one moment. Welcome back from break, everybody. I know I was all over the place. I was trying to, I only have one camera on this laptop. I had to kind of rotate, so we had to take a break in between that. But now that I'm calmed down, now that you guys see the reaction that people are getting from this interview, all I can say is a lot of these journalists are full of crap. They're not full with actual journalism. They're not. Because the journalist, number one, who interviewed Hunter Biden should have pushed back when he said it would be a distraction. When exactly did you resign from the firm? When exactly did that occur? Did that occur when your father was still the vice president of the United States, or did you resign after Trump won the presidency? If you resigned after Donald Trump won the presidency, well, now we have to ask the question of, or did you resign after, a particular corrupt administration in Ukraine was uplifted and uprooted by this new president of the Ukraine? Were you worried that this new president of the Ukraine was going to investigate your crimes in the Ukraine? Is that why you resigned? Did you resign 3 years ago? Again, I don't have all the information. I don't have all the facts of the case. I really don't know when he exactly resigned. If he resigned 3 years ago when Obama was still the president. If he resigned when Trump was in the White House. But the point that I'm trying to make here is he kept trying to make it seem like that he resigned because he didn't want there to look like there was any kind of impropriety or any shady dealings between the Biden presidency, if Joe was to win, and the Ukraine. But what are you talking about? The crime that was committed when your father was the vice president of the United States. You were being investigated. Now, whatever the crime, whatever it is that you were being investigated for, whether it was a valid investigation or not, you were being investigated, plain and simple. And the thing is, if he was not guilty, then you should have just let the investigation run. Not only that, number two, you are an American citizen, so you have rights and privileges. They want stuff from America, so it would have been simple as you will give him a fair trial at least. You only pull out the big guns, my father's the vice president, if they're not offering you a free trial, period. But if you didn't do anything wrong, then what's wrong with an investigation? Maybe they were only investigating the firm. Or were you worried that them investigating the firm would lead to crimes that connect to who? The Democrats? You see what I'm saying? No journalist has been pushing back. I have all of these questions and no one's answering them. Not the woman who interviewed him. And let's be for real. He's not going to go and be interviewed by anybody at Fox. Like, he's not going to be interviewed by Brett. He's not going to get interviewed by him. He's going to get interviewed by, what's the other one? Samantha, Martha, Harris. You're not going to get interviewed by any of these hardcore hitting journalists. You're not going to get interviewed by Chris Wallace. He's not. He's not going to go there for all those questions to be asked. And when he says stuff like, "Oh, well, I didn't want any distractions from my father's campaign when he becomes the president of the United States." You know what Chris Wallace or Brett or any one of these real journalists at Fox News would have said? You know what they would have said? Or even Ben Shapiro. Granted, he has his opinion, but he knows real journalism, hard-hitting, hardcore journalism. He would have responded, "You didn't answer my question, sir." If he were Megyn Kelly, right? If this woman was Megyn Kelly, you know what Megyn Kelly would have done? She would have said, "Dodge. You're evading the question. You're saying a whole bunch of other stuff, but that's not answering my question. Why didn't you renew?" "Oh, I didn't want there to look like there was any impropriety on my father's campaign." That's neither here nor there. How does that relate to the investigation into you? Your father running for president what does that have to do with the investigation the Ukraine opened into your firm and into you personally when your father was in the White House? What does any of that have to do with your father running for president right now? Not a damn thing. All of these journalists that they're sitting on or being put before them as far as candidates or whatever you want to call them, because I think they're a bunch of jokes. They're not asking hard questions. You want to say another thing they're not asking questions about? The Minneapolis protest outside of the Trump campaign rally. That was ridiculous. And to find out days after Ilhan Omar was protesting, she was out there throwing rocks, playing a part in, destruction of property, assaulting Trump supporters, not just harassing them verbally. No. They were assaulting them. Now, I don't know if she physically assaulted anybody, but just the fact that she was there, throwing the rocks, allegedly, says that she supports them. I want an investigation into that woman. I want to know if she played a role in planning it. I want to know if she put money up to organize it. I want to know all of these things about that protest, especially because we know a congresswoman, a sitting congresswoman, was present. And then the cops didn't do anything? The cops are watching them, watching protesters just spit on people. I watched one protest, I think the Daily Wire released it, and this one black man slapped a white woman, right? See, but now everybody want to cry racism. Everyone want to cry all this shit about how black men are being treated unfairly in the court of law. If my black ass was out there and I saw you hit my white friend the way that I watched that man hit that white girl, I would have pressed charges immediately. And if that cop didn't do it, I would have taken a picture of his badge. I would have marched my ass into the closest precinct. I would have flashed the picture of the I would have flashed the picture of the cop's badge, a picture of the man who assaulted my friend. Y'all, no, they're the first ones to cry racism, but when they actually attack people, no one wants to do anything about it. Plain and simple. And then the journalists don't want to cover it. Where was their coverage? We are this close. Gingrich just said it on Fox News. I don't know if it was today or yesterday, but we are this close at being at a cultural civil war, and the journalists are playing a huge role in it. They're the influencers of this generation. Who do you think is out there rallying and protesting violently like that? It's not boomers. It's not Gen Xers. Boomers will shout. They'll cuss you out. Gen Xers will shout and cuss you out. Unless they're far left or black, really black and liberal, they're not going to touch you. They're just going to shout at you. Unless they're my age. My generation. We're talking about millennial babies here. Millennial babies are losing their damn minds. They're going out there wilding the hell out. And the cops aren't doing anything, and the news isn't covering it, period, except for Fox News, the Daily Wire. Why aren't y'all covering this? Are y'all covering for a bunch of ass wipes and thugs? We're covering their faces that we know are called Antifa? So what has to happen, huh? Somebody has to die at one of these protests for the mainstream media to cover it? Or will they cover it at all? I just found out that Laura Loomer is running for Congress. I think she's running in Florida. God, I hope she wins her race. I really hope she does, because she's a journalist, not an opinion host. No. She's a hardcore hitting journalist who's been censored, who's been silenced, who knows the cabal within the Fourth Estate. She's the one that would probably bring legislation to start holding these assholes in Fourth Estate accountable for influencing the very minds that are partaking in these very violent protests. I don't know if you guys saw those protests, and to be frank, I can't watch them anymore. I watched too many. Too many of those. And no one's covered it. Except for independent journalists, right? Up and coming news organizations, or well-established ones like the Daily Wire. But again, they're all on streaming. Nobody has broadcast. When are we going to start seeing licenses pulled? When are we going to start seeing members of the Fourth Estate actually arrested and held accountable for their actions? And if we can't do it in criminal court, what do we as America have to do to bring them to civil court and prove not only their bias, but their complicitness and the aid that they're providing to these thugs in the streets? And when I say aid, I don't mean money. I don't mean, materialistic things. I mean influencing the rest of the nation to grow to be sympathetic and empathetic and start joining these thugs in the streets. Black Lives Matter. They're thugs in the streets. Some, not all of them, but the organization itself is. The same way we know not all Muslims are bad, but I know the Muslim Brotherhood is. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. We need to start identifying who the threat is. And that's why we have the Fourth Estate. Your job is to identify the threat. But if they're not doing that, and you're encouraging the very violence coming from the threat, then what the hell are we supposed to do? And how the hell can we hold you accountable for it? Because you're not doing your jobs. You didn't do it when it came to Hunter Biden. You're not doing it when it came to the Minneapolis protest outside of a Trump rally. You didn't want to tell the truth when Kavanaugh was being interrogated and ostracized by a bunch of ass wipes. You didn't do any of that. The Fourth Estate didn't do anything. Absolutely nothing. They didn't want to cover their story when it came to Harvey Weinstein. You didn't want to cover the story when it came to Matt Lauer. With the exception of Megyn Kelly, who you later fired for whatever reason. I just believe y'all came up with a cop-out as to, she believed in blackface. No, she held your asses accountable every single day sitting in your studio. They don't want to tell the truth. They don't want to tell you who the threat is. They don't want to cover who the enemy is. They don't want to show you the truth. America, What do we have to do? Maybe that's what we need to figure out. I mean, I know I'm so wrapped up with black agenda and black incentive, but the media, the fourth estate to be specific, because I don't give a rat's ass about opinion news. Fox News has so many of them. Why can't CNN have opinion news? If Fox News can have a whole bunch of them, so can CNN and MSNBC. The problem here is you have people in CNN like Chris Cuomo thinking that he's an actual journalist. No, you are not. If you were an actual journalist, you would have been able to hold Antifa accountable in your footage. On live camera. You would have done that if you were a journalist. No, you're opinion news. Because if you weren't opinion, you never would have said Antifa are good people. Or whatever the hell he said. We know he didn't condemn their actions. But as a journalist, I don't need you to condemn them. What I need you to do is to tell me what wrongdoing they have done. And he refused to do that. And when someone brought it up to him and said the things that they did, you did it. And then when you bring a victim of Antifa's crimes on your network, you still try to save Chris Cuomo's ass, because that's what they were doing. They weren't asking the questions of this independent journalist to see what actually happened and to see how Antifa was at fault. No, you brought this young man on. You told him that it was far leftist protesters that attacked him instead of Antifa, so you can discredit this journalist when he said that Antifa were the ones that attacked him, and cover Chris Cuomo's ass for not actually condemning their actions or telling the truth to their behavior across the state, across the country. Where the hell is the fourth estate? Freedom of the freaking press. What press? We have opinion. We have no journalism in this country anymore on broadcast. You can kiss that goodbye. All the broadcasting that we have as far as news is gone. I mean, you might have some journalists left. You know, you may have George Stephanopoulos, because at least Trump said on Judge Jeanine the other day that he respected George for saying that Adam Schiff lied when referencing the transcripts in that hearing. At least George did that. But he doesn't do it enough. George, a lot of these journalists on ABC and NBC and MSNBC and CNN, a lot of them don't actually do it. Even as opinion news hosts, I expect them to do some of their research or to say that it's speculation. Like most of my episode today, I said it's speculation. Why? Because I don't know all the facts of the case regarding Hunter Biden, right? I don't know when he resigned. I don't know if he resigned when Obama was still in the White House or if while Trump was in the White House. What I also don't know is, you know, when he started working for them, which I want to say he said he started working 2014, 2015. He said it in the interview. But the only thing that stuck out to me is that he didn't answer the question as to why he didn't renew his contract. And the whole impropriety thing, or making it a distraction for his father's campaign. If he resigned under Obama, what made you think that your father would run for office when everyone thought that Hillary Clinton had the campaign in the bag, had the election in the bag? You knew damn well your father was going to run for office in 2020, because if you all believed that Hillary was winning in 2016, you knew she would run again in 2020. Right? If he resigned, well, Trump was in office. Why did you not renew your contract? Oh, because my father's running for president. No, because you knew that if you stayed there, the investigation would touch you. And all they would have to do was have one reason to start looking into the Bidens and how that money there relates its way back to the DNC. Follow the money. It's really that easy. Someone needs to tell that to whoever is investigating in the Ukraine and here in the United States as far as corruption is concerned. Find the money and follow it. Because I guarantee you, it didn't stop with Hunter. It didn't stop there. Talking about all these different places that he worked before that makes him qualified. Mofo, you were not qualified. But that doesn't mean you're not going to be on the board. There's so many people who shouldn't be on the boards of the news broadcast business industry. Plain and simple. People who don't know stocko about news are running news organizations. People who don't know the difference between opinion and news. People who know nothing of the concept of objectivism. Verify, honest journalism. There are people who work for even Fox News who don't value the journalistic ethics that we expect most of our journalists to have. But they're running shit. So I don't hold that against Hunter. But again, at least I'm saying speculation. Right? Opinion news hosts don't do that. They just think that what they want us to think that the shit that they say is just fact. It's news. Put it out there. We're supposed to buy it. We're supposed to believe it. And you know what? If this were me 4 years ago, I would have bought every word. And my ass would probably want to join an Antifa chapter. Why? Because they would have gotten me rattled up and emotional and in my feelings. And that's what my generation is all about. We're all about our freaking feelings. No logic, no rationality. You can't talk wisdom to stupid because they can't hear you. And why can't they hear you? Because mainstream media is all in their ear, pumping lies and bullshit. Where's the journalists? Where are the journalists like Lara Logan? Lara Logan, she would have been a good one he could have sat in front of. Would he? Probably not, because she's been on Fox News. But she doesn't identify whether or not she is liberal or conservative. She said in an interview, that 3-hour-long interview, she said that she didn't even, she hasn't voted in this country simply because if she chooses a side, they will hold it against her no matter which side she is on. So she chooses to be neutral in her own adopted country. Why? Because she feels it would hurt her. It would hurt her as a journalist. That people wouldn't believe she can be objective if she's a liberal covering conservatives, or if she's conservative covering liberals. They think that she couldn't be objective if she chose a side. So she chose to be neutral and not to participate in her new nation's democracy, a nation that adopted her. She chooses not to be a part of that. She could have interviewed him, and she would have hit harder than that journalist did. Her name is not even worth mentioning because she doesn't know hard-hitting journalism from her damn elbow. Plain and simple. I know I'm got very, very heated, very, very angry, very, very emotional. I'm heated right now. I'm so disappointed in all of the journalists on all of the networks. I don't care what network you're from. I really don't. Nobody's doing their jobs right. Nobody is. And as an American citizen who has to sit here and swallow that bullshit, whether it comes from broadcasting or social media or even streaming, I can't get my questions answered because no journalist wants to do their job. And then on top of that, I'm a citizen who wants to see these people be locked up. And I'm not talking about Hillary Clinton and and the Bidens and Obama. I'm not talking about them. I mean, granted, a lot of the people need to go to jail that worked under Obama, if not Obama himself. And I'm definitely going to get in trouble for saying that because, again, I'm black and a lot of people in my family love that man. I didn't. I mean, I don't have no hate for anybody, but if you're a criminal, you got to go to jail. It's really that simple. But I digress. The point of the matter is, I think people in the fourth estate need to start being held accountable. I don't care if it's legislation that needs to happen, that needs to be passed so we can start arresting our journalists. I don't care what we have to do, but what can we do legally to get broadcasting licenses pulled, to get people fired and removed from the very industry of which that they're poisoning? And how can we lock that ass up if we prove that they're not only their bias, but their complicitness is what influenced a generation of Americans to lash out physically against people who disagree with them? Who disagree. We're in a society, once again, that can't talk to one another. We can't agree to disagree with one another. No, we gotta beat your ass because you like Trump. Or you're a black person who chose not to vote at all because you don't like Democrats or Donald Trump. This is the crap that people have to put up with. Me, in particularly. You know why? Because I am a young black woman who should be Democrat, but I am not. I have to constantly defend my position to other people. And what's going to happen one day when someone asks me if I am Democrat or not, and I say that I'm conservative? I'm not Republican, but I am conservative. What's going to happen? Do I need to be in fear of my life? I live in the state of New Jersey. I can't carry a firearm. I make $15 minimum wage. I can't afford private security. So what, now I can't be who I am because I got to worry that somebody's going to punch me in the face simply because Maxine Waters said that they should? Or simply because CNN refused to condemn them for their behaviors? Simply because the police officers want to stand down because liberals told them to? So my life is in danger now. And my generation is becoming more violent and more uneducated. We're more ignorant. We're the ones who get screwed. We're the class of dummies going around attacking people. Because what? You don't like Trump? These are called tantrums. Check your attitude. Grow the fuck up. And I know my language right now, it's vulgar, it's crass. I get that it is. And I apologize if you're a person who is my elder. I apologize for my bad language, but I am so mad right now. I am heated. The lack of real hardcore journalism was the catalyst for all of the behavior that's followed since. People were paying, Democrats and liberals were paying people to, bust out into fights at Trump rallies. They weren't doing that on their own. They wouldn't have done that on their own unless they were paid to do it. Black people and white liberals were paid to fight each other at a Trump rally during his first campaign. And the media, what did they do? They bought it and they spread it. They bought it and they spread it. Trump supporters are racists. And now Black Lives Matter are becoming more violent. You guys seeing the trend here? They are the catalyst. It's not Trump, it's the media. It is the media. It is the fourth estate. It is the journalists. Or lack thereof, I should say. I want people arrested and locked up. Mr. President, I don't know if you're watching this or if you'll ever watch this, but if so, or anyone who has the ear of the president, please tell him what I just said. Find a way to start arresting these people, or give us a way to hold them accountable in civil court at least. Give the American people the power to start pulling broadcasting licenses, because I guarantee you conservatives in this country will come together to pull CNN off the freaking air. Plain and simple. Give us, the American people, the power to do it, and we'll freaking do it. We don't need you to keep doing it all for us. We just need you to give us the weapons to do so. And when I say weapons, I mean the law. I don't mean guns. I don't mean sticks. I don't mean go attacking people, because that's exactly what the left are doing. Nah, we're going to start holding people accountable in a criminal courtroom or a civil courtroom, and we're getting broadcast licenses pulled. We're getting journalists locked up if we possibly can, and not because they're telling the truth, but because they are perpetuating the very problems that are causing the close to civil war scenario. And what's more dangerous is that we're not talking about racial civil war. No, we're talking about an ideological war, where anybody, black, white, purple, or green, can be conservative, and Antifa and Black Lives Matter don't know which one of us is the conservative. So what do we have to worry? Do we have to worry that they're going to shoot all of us because they don't know which one of us is conservative? Or are they going to work extra hard to specifically target the conservative to end their lives, whether it be literally or career-wise? People in the fourth estate need to be held accountable. I want arrests. I want people locked up. I want broadcast licenses pulled. I'm over it. I think the tit for tat back and forth between Donald Trump and the mainstream media. Okay, ratings are going down. Hoorah. That was fine 2 years ago. Ratings dropping was fine 2 years ago. But the shit that I just showed y'all today, the lack of journalistic ethics from the journalists who interviewed Hunter Biden, from the lack of credibility in journalistic ethics from the women at The View who claim they're journalists. Sunny Hostin claims she's a journalist because she was a prosecutor. Bitch! No, she's not a bitch. She's not. But she's not a nice lady because she's not a journalist. She says that she is, but if you were once upon a time a prosecutor, how are you winning any of your cases? You completely dodged the subject matter of which that was brought to you at that table. Abby Hostin, because you are the daughter of a politician, you feel for Hunter Biden, you never committed a crime. You never committed a crime. So you were never under investigation. You never caused those types of issues for your father because you never committed a crime in the first place. Same thing for Meghan, and that's why Meghan was able to say what she was able to say. Though as a young woman, she made several mistakes that may have brought scrutiny to her father's campaign. Never did she ever commit a crime where his integrity was called into question. Hunter may have committed a crime and evaded investigation because his daddy saved him by getting a prosecutor fired. Simply by withholding funds, quid pro quo. But no one in the mainstream media want to cover that. You want to toss that allegation onto Donald Trump and his sons, but you don't want to look at the same problem with Joe and his son. Journalists need to be held accountable when their bias plays a role in their lack of true journalistic ethics. And when it perpetuates the very problems that we in this country have to face as far as the close to civil war scenario that they are causing. And if Trump can't do it, then he needs to start lobbying with the Republican caucus about getting laws passed to give the people the power to fire them ourselves. And it cannot be just wait for the ratings to drop. It cannot be about ratings anymore. Now it's about integrity. Now it's about law and order. And they are perpetuating the chaos. We need to stop the chaos. They're the ones causing it. It doesn't take a genius to say, well, stop what's causing the chaos and the chaos will stop. Well, if it's the mainstream media that's causing it, well, then maybe the mainstream media should stop. That just makes sense. And if Trump can't do it, then give the American people the power to do so. Because we will have broadcast licenses pulled. We'll do the job if he can't do it by constantly passing executive orders. I don't need you to do that. You pass one executive order that says the American people need to pull together signatures. They need to pull together money and get banging ass attorneys to do so. I guarantee you, Mr. President, you give us 3 months with an executive order like that, the conservatives across the country will pull ranks, pull money, and they will find the best attorneys. They will gather all the signatures they most possibly can, and they will bring it to a court of law. Whether it is civil or criminal, you decide. But you give us that power, and I guarantee you within not even 90 days, you give us 30 days. Not only will we have the best attorneys, we will have the money and the signatures to say why this network should be pulled from broadcast, why this journalist should be pulled from broadcast. And if it works, come 2020, when we have a Republican House and Senate, pass the law so we can do that. So we can do it. Granted, evidence needs to be brought. You can't just say we want this person gone and they should be gone. No, bring evidence. What kind of evidence do we need? What is our argument? Well, I think that they should be removed from their broadcasting license should be pulled simply because they played a role in the chaos that we are seeing. Well, how can you prove that? All you'd have to do is prove their bias and how their bias influenced generations of Americans to start targeting conservatives. We shouldn't have to wait for somebody to be murdered in the streets for the mainstream media to cover it. We shouldn't have to wait for someone to be murdered in the streets for us to be able to do something about the mainstream media. We shouldn't have to wait for any of that. We should just have the power to do so because there is no more real journalism. There's no more of that. Now it's just entertainment. Newsroom was more news than the news that comes on. That is where we're at in America. I know I'm heated and I spent a lot of time talking about Hunter Biden, a lot about the mainstream media. I was just fed up. I was coming home and I was hearing everybody talking about how Hunter Biden, this, that, and third, and oh my gosh, and the debates are happening. I don't have a right to ask about those debates. What I care about is the mainstream media. These debates are a clown show. I don't care who's debating. I'll watch, but for laughs, not because I'm taking it seriously. You know what I'm taking seriously? The fact that I'm conservative and I can be punched out simply because I'm conservative. There's a protest happening this weekend where communists have decided that they're deliberately going to be violent, and if I go wearing my Keep America Great Again hat, I could be assaulted. And God forbid, I'm a woman, so forget what could happen to me. Because things far worse than being punched in the face could happen to me walking into a crowd wearing a Keep America Great Again hat. I'm not stupid, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go. I'm going to go to the protest. I have to go incognito a little bit and wear my Nipsey Hussle t-shirt and kind of blend in with the rest of them so I can get the footage, but they are intentionally going to be violent. In New York, in California. They're going to do this. And I really want to see if the police officers are going to stand down or if they're going to grow a pair of balls and start arresting these mofos. And that's what I'm going there for. Not to antagonize the left, not to antagonize the liberals or the communists or the socialists that are in there. I'm not trying to get my ass beat. I'm not trying to get my ass assaulted. I just want to know, I just want to see if the cops are going to stand down. Because I've been hearing that and I've been seeing it across the country, but I haven't seen it in person as far as a violent protest breaking out and the cops standing down. I've seen the cops not arrest protesters, but that's because they're peaceful until they start cussing you out, because that was my situation a few weeks ago, or last week Thursday, or whenever Thursday it was. When I came home, I was leaving work and there was a protest. The police weren't doing anything. These people, I don't even know if they had a permit or not. If they didn't, the cops weren't arresting them. Why? Because they were peaceful. Cussing at each other and cussing out the protesters protesting their protest, but still peaceful. But the mainstream media doesn't want to cover it. I can't wait for the day where we can pull broadcast license, folks, and watch these holier than thou, elitist, not so much journalists go to jail. I had to let out that steam. I was a bit heated because I had watched those videos from the Minneapolis protest and watching The View and that Hunter Biden interview. It had me heated because the one thing that I could see that was consistent in everything was a lack of true journalism. The lack of journalism in the Hunter Biden interview, the lack of journalism at the table with The View, with women, with three women who say that they're journalists, but I didn't get journalistic analysis from either one of them. I got feelings from all three, really. And there was no real journalism, at least from the mainstream media anyway, when it came to the protest outside the Trump rally in Minneapolis. Mind you, people, Minneapolis, it's where Mary was from. You know the Mary Tyler Moore show? Well, Mary does not recognize home anymore. And thank God Rhoda moved back home to the Bronx. That's all I got to say. Because good Lord, those women would not recognize home. Rhoda or Mary. And obviously, I know I'm talking about the characters, but if those women were still alive, they wouldn't recognize the very city that they were representing in their show in the 70s. I mean, the 70s, people. It's not that long ago. And that's how far our country's gone. And that's because the mainstream media isn't doing their jobs. That's all the time I have for you guys. My voice is getting scratchy just from doing all of this yelling and shouting. I was so heated and so angry. And you guys are going to see a lot more of that passion when I start doing a little bit more of these. But I'm going to try not being so heated or angry, I should say, when doing the next one. Because I was all over the place. But you catch my drift. You see where I'm coming from. And that's all the time I have for you guys today. So, speak to you all soon. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I'm Asia Branch, your host to Speak On It. Talk to you guys later.